Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his party ZANU-PF took their campaign to the capital Harare, that is known for being the stronghold for the opposition. In the previous elections, Mnangagwa garnered less than 25% of the votes in this province, while his party secured a single seat out of the 29 available. To the thousands that converged here, the incumbent ZANU-PF leader promised to improve the lives of the citizens and denounce violence ahead of the polls.
On the 23rd of August, we must democratically and constitutionally kick them out of the councils. And the weapon we use to kick out these failures is your vote. The opposition is heartless and insensitive to the needs of our people, coupled with their gross incompetence. They must go now. Let us vote them out of town house. Let them be kicked out of every single constituency.
A new great Zimbabwe for everyone!
The opposition CCC launched its manifesto this week in the country's second largest city, Bulawayo. The leader of the opposition has condemned the killing of his supporter.
One of our key issues we must restore is to restore the trust and confidence in government. We need to restore the trust in the rights and freedoms of the citizens. You must be free to demonstrate. And when you demonstrate, you must not end up in prison. When you demonstrate, you must not be like Mutwakas, MRP. They now ban bars for simply demonstrating. You must not be like Job Sikala, representing a mere child of Zimbabwe. Blessing Ali. He is in prison. We must restore fundamental rights and freedoms. This is the president who is going to give you back your rights.
One opposition leader of the Movement for Democratic Change, Douglas Mwanzora, has pulled out of the race, citing unfairness in the political field. The other presidential candidates, Sevaka Sikuwera, is continuing with his legal battle challenging the Supreme Court's ruling that's confirmed his nullification as presidential candidates.
I saw my brother Douglas is pulled out of the race. It's not easy. Yes, we agree with him. There are challenges, there are problems. But the best way to win is not to quit. The best way to win is to fight unto victory. And we have said to the people of Zimbabwe, count on us to fight unto victory. We will fight them in the courts, we will fight them in the streets, we will fight them in the ballot box, we will fight them at the ballot. And we know that ultimately our God is going to stand with us.
In just a fortnight, Zimbabweans will decide on their leaders for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, election observers have started arriving. Khumalo, SABC News.
Our Zimbabwean opposition party, the Citizens Coalition for Change, has reiterated that eligible Zimbabweans should go back home and vote. The neighbouring country will go to the polls this month. Chatham House has hosted discussions in Johannesburg on the much-anticipated election. Khumalo has more.
Very invigorating discussion, as we know that it's 14 days to go to the elections in Zimbabwe. So you have quite a number of significant players here in Johannesburg, really looking at the road to the elections in Zimbabwe. But joining us now is the national spokesperson of the CCC, one of the leading players in Zimbabwe. So thank you so much indeed for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Lovely. Maybe just first and foremost, I mean, you have been campaigning, and we've seen in some instances where you were barred in terms of the venues. So far, how's the campaign going?
So we are extremely overwhelmed by the huge response that we've received from citizens. There is an overwhelming desire for change in Zimbabwe, and citizens everywhere are mobilized. I think we've seen our campaign in all 10 provinces of Zimbabwe. and in all these 10 provinces, both rural and urban populations, we've traversed all 36,000 villages, sharing our message of hope and inspiration for the nation. Obviously, when ZANU-PF's back's against the wall, they respond with violence, they ban our campaigns, but we budgeted for this because we know how they behave. We've had experience with them, and they've been championing this sort of repression and violence for 43 years. So we knew that they would resort to that, but we remain resolute, defiant. We're going to peacefully fight for a better Zimbabwe and attain power through constitutional means to ensure that we build a Zimbabwe that works for everyone.
And also just looking at a number of issues facing Zimbabwe, the concern, the anxiety around violence. And we saw the political parties signing the pledge just to commit in terms of making sure that these elections are free and fair, but also under a very peaceful environment. What would be your message to the political parties in terms of making sure that they do adhere to the pledge?
Well, as a starting point, ZANU-PF can never win a free and fair election that's peaceful in Zimbabwe, which is why we see these incidents of violence. My message to all political parties is let's do things peacefully. If you're a party such as ours that knows that it's got popular support of the millions, you don't need to resort to violence. This election should be a festival of ideas, debating our manifestos. Obviously, ZANU-PF doesn't have a manifesto, but for the parties that do have ideas to take our great nation forward, that's what it should be about. It should not be about exchanging blows. And today it was very unfortunate that Mr. Mnangagwa of ZANU-PF said, well, if you don't like the country as it is now, go to war. The reason that liberation war was fought and we attained independence in 1980 was to ensure that we had one person, one vote, and that Zimbabwe could be free and benefit everybody. We want black people and all races, all creeds to live in prosperity. We can't have 49% extreme poverty according to the World Bank, and you say, well, this is the liberation. This is not the liberation that so many people lost their lives for, where people live in poverty, they're jailed for doing nothing, as we've seen with Job Sikala, who's been in jail now for 1.5 years, Jacob Ngari Vume, all political prisoners, where you have a situation where the agricultural sector is not doing enough to feed the population, and people are now starving, and we're having to take a begging bowl to Russia for grain. That's unacceptable. Zimbabwe should be the breadbasket of the region. As the CCC, we've put forward a policy plan, a manifesto that champions all these things, that will restore macroeconomic stability and fundamentals, that will introduce a currency that works, that will resolve the debt crisis, that will pursue a fiscal consolidation, that will ensure that our natural resources are leveraged for the benefit of the population and not just a small ZANU-PF gold mafia.
And just before I let you go, ma'am, to the diaspora vote in South Africa and other regions, what can you say just to convince them to seize the opportunity, so to speak?
So unfortunately, ZANU-PF closed the door to the diaspora vote in the true sense, and it's a policy and a principle that we see in almost all SADC countries. Be that as it may, we're urging all citizens who live outside Zimbabwe, and I think the total at the moment is 5 million. Let's use our power to ensure that we vote decisively for change. If you live as close as South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, let's all come in our millions to vote for change, because once things are resolved and the political crisis is settled in Zimbabwe, then we'll have a strong economy that works for everyone again. Then everybody can come back, and the brain drain that we continue to see, our teachers, our doctors, everybody leaving because the economy is not working for anyone but the ZANU-PF elites, all of that will be resolved, and we'll retake our place in the community of nations, take a stand in the global economy, participate meaningfully, produce, restore our industry, have smart agriculture, modern ways of mining, and ensure that really all the resources Zimbabwe has are used to great effect. Zimbabwe is clearly not poor, it's poorly managed, and we want to build a Zimbabwe that works, as President Chamisa has said, for everyone.
All right. Thank you so much indeed for your time, ma'am. Of course, that's the CCC national spokesperson, really just talking about a number of issues facing Zimbabwe. And of course, the issue of economic recovery appears to be a very major issue among the political parties. Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.